Tack. Hi.
Hi.
Niklas O'Malley. I am Norwegian. My father's Irish, so I do speak English. I have no issues with that. So if there is any Norwegian questions, I'll repeat them on English and then answer them. But yeah, I'll do this in English if it's fine for everyone. Yeah. A little bit about myself. I'm 31 years old. I've worked in the food business, Kiwi, and stuff like that from I was 16 to I was about 25. Found out that I didn't want to put stuff in, I didn't want to sell food to people for the rest of my life, and computers has always been it for me. I mean, I broke my first computer when I was 8. I sweated like mad because my dad would kill me, and I fixed it. And that was an aha moment for me, and I've loved computers ever since. I work in a company called Sky in Oslo, well, in Kolbotn, just outside Oslo. We do have, here in Stord, we do have in Sweden, we do have offices, different places, so we're trying to grow. I was told to talk about a little bit about Sky. I've been working in Sky for about 7 months, so I'm not that into like Sky. How long have they been there? How many employees they have? And that sort of boring information. So Sky. I was thinking about probably talking about Sky the way I look at Sky. I am pretty new in Sky, and I've worked a lot of different places. And Sky for me is a place where I can grow as an individual. Sky for me is a place where I can actually try out new things, like a blockchain. Let's see what we can do with a blockchain, and nobody complains. I can actually do it. Sky to me is a place where I am allowed to be myself and still gain. So I really, really like Sky. Sky is the best place I've worked, and that's just being honest. I really like Sky. It is a company that looks forward for new solutions. That's why I know blockchain. For the first 2 weeks in Sky, I only worked with blockchain, nothing else. I didn't touch anything else. I only worked with IBM software, Hyperledger, just to try to understand it. It wasn't beta, so I didn't understand it, and it just broke, and I couldn't get it to work, so piece of crap in my opinion, but yeah. But that's sort of Sky in a nutshell. They try to bring you forward. They try to learn you new things so they can learn new things. They understand that as a company, it's the employees that need to learn new stuff, not the company. So they will actually teach you or send you to courses. And yeah, I really like the place. They're really forward thinking when it comes to technology. As I said, I'm Niklas O'Malley. I work at Sky. My email is niklas@sky. I am the nestleder på engelsk. Second chief in command for the Norwegian Blockchain Association. I started it with a friend that also works in Sky. I started it with a friend in Sky, and we have about 110 members. So yeah, Sky is really forward thinking. We will revolutionize the world, hopefully. I've had 5 beers, just so as you know. So this is, yeah, easy going. So if I trip, we'll delete that from the video. And just to begin with, this is just an image. This is, I'll start anyway. This is sort of an image of what we do today. We don't do this at all, basically. But this is blockchain. We try to do this, but sort of fail because the data can be different across the network. And this we do a lot. I am a full stack web developer, and I build this a lot. One central point of failure. I build a lot of servers with a lot of APIs. And that's the only server, that's the only API. If that goes down, you're sort of screwed. And I build this a lot. But just to get you sort of a clarification, centralized, decentralized, distributed. So centralized, you have one point of failure. if that goes down, everything goes down. In a decentralized system, you have more points of failure. So if this goes down, these two go down, but the rest will work. All these three need to go down for the whole network to go down. In a distributed network, everything has to go down for it to go down, because everything is connected to each other. That's the blockchain, basically. It would maybe look like this in reality, but we tried to actually reach a distributed solution. So, blockchain, and again, I'm doing this in English, but the files are in Norwegian. And I am dyslexic, so if something's written wrong, yeah, I'm sorry, you have to live with this. But yeah, to begin with, a blockchain. So you can move and prove ownership of anything digital without central authority. And it's the last part there that's new. You can move and prove ownership of anything digital. You do that with money every day. When you drag your Visa, you move and prove ownership of the Visa transaction. The big thing here is that we don't need Visa in a blockchain. We can do this without Visa. We can do this without a central authority because it's a trustless network. You don't need trust in the network, so the central point of trust is unnecessary. We do a lot of centralization today because of something that's called the generals problem. Are you known with the generals problem? Basically, the generals problem was coined in 1970, and it's a mathematical problem. And the problem states that if a general wants to attack a city, and he has troops around the city, how is the general going to communicate with his different entities around the city and tell them exactly the time you want to attack? Exactly the time. And the problem is that the general has no way of knowing that all the data in the different entities is correct. And the data can change when the data moves from one person to another. It can change. You've all played Viskeleken in Norwegian, right? And it never comes out the same. So you say one word from one person to another, and you say the exact same word. And good luck with getting the same word at the end. Especially the more people you have, the harder it will be to get the exact same word that you actually said. Especially if you can only say the word once. But that's possible with a blockchain. It actually solves that issue. It can work like a neutral mellompart. Today, a lot of companies has a lot of data, master data, stored in different locations. So you probably have 5 servers with master data. Different companies have the same master data. And no company wants to give away that data to another company because you give that company so much power with doing that. So if another company holds your data, they can delete it and you're bankrupt. That's a lot of power. You don't want to give away that power of your company, obviously, so you want to hold the data yourself. And you get a lot of copies, unnecessary copies. If you can have a neutral system that holds that data, stores that data, handles that data, and does all the logic that nobody owns, nobody can actually take control over, you'll have something powerful. And you'll have different companies that will connect to this neutral network. Not only one company will have its own network, you will have different companies connecting to that network. So you will have the farmer, you will have the shop, you will have the drivers, you will have the Norwegian government. Everybody would be connected to the same network, getting the same data, and it will be updated, correct, and we'll get things will move a lot faster in society. I'll get back to that. It's global verifiable, so it means that it doesn't care about your skin color, it doesn't care about where you're from, it doesn't care about borders, it doesn't care about anything. You can actually send Bitcoin to Mars when you think about it. So Elon Musk wants to travel to Mars. will Norwegian crown work on Mars? No, you don't have Visa there. You don't have the banks. You don't have the infrastructure. You don't have the system. Everything the blockchain needs is an internet connection up to Mars. Done. You'll have Bitcoin on Mars. And that's sort of big when you think about the future anyway. So global verification, it's sort of anywhere verification. And it's the closest that we have to anything physical. This one is a bit hard to understand, but if I have something physical, say this glass bottle, and I give it to you, you know I've lost it. In the computer world, in the digital world, you have no idea if I've copied that, an exact same copy. Now I can copy this and have two of them, but they're still unique. There's still two individual glass bottles. They're still unique. In blockchain, you can do the same. So when it comes to anything digital, like an email, when you send it, you have a copy of it, and it's not unique at all. It's stored on different servers. It's stored on your computer. It's stored on the receiver's computer. It's stored different places. But with blockchain, you can send a digital asset and know that the person has lost that asset, and that asset is unique. So it is nothing physical, but it's the closest we have to something physical in that sense. Okay? And by the way, I take questions whenever. Just give me questions. I'll try to answer them. And then the one that I hide, challenges. Obviously, there is challenges in blockchain, and the first one is that it's so new. When I went on the Hyperledger, nothing worked. There is no documentation. You actually have to read the code to understand what's happening. You can't just Google it and find the answer. It is hard work to actually work with blockchain, but it's so rewarding when you actually get it done. And you can write some documentation yourself and you get some creds for that. The open source community loves people that do that. And this one is kind of philosophical, but you don't own anything, you only have access to it. And that does something with the security of a blockchain. That does something with the way you have to treat data on the blockchain. It does something, you really have to think about this. Because to me, you don't own anything on a blockchain. This is discussable, right? So this is philosophical, so we can have a discussion in many hours about this. But to me, you don't own anything. You only have access to it. If you lose the access, you lose everything. So if you have 1 million Bitcoin in a Bitcoin wallet, and you lose that key, you lose access to it. Ergo, it's not yours. The way Norwegian Crown and the bank works today, if you lose your password to your bank and your code thingy, they can reset it. You cannot do that with a blockchain. At least the way they're built now. We'll see in the future. But yeah, so you don't own anything, you only have access. Do not lose your access. Important. Rule number 1 in blockchain, secure your access. No matter what type of blockchain you're working with, secure your access. And that means secure your private keys. Don't go to a third-party solution that's centralized like Coinbase. Move them out of there immediately. But yeah, I'll probably have that in the end. I'll have a small Bitcoin round as well if you want. And control, cost, security. So this is blockchain. And the way I explain this, because people tend to, well, I as well tend to sort of look at Bitcoin when I talk about blockchain. But really, blockchain, you can look at it if you're a painter. You start with a white canvas. You can paint anything as long as you use paint to make it a painting, or else it will be a drawing if you drew it. So that's the same with a blockchain. We don't have to build Bitcoin blockchain. We don't have to build the exact same. There's no point in building the exact same. And we can do anything we want. But the more control you put into it, the less secure it is. We say that Bitcoin blockchain is unhackable. And that statement is true, but at the same time, it's sort of unfair. The reason the blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain, is not hackable is because there's nothing to hack. All the data in the blockchain is open. Anybody can read it. Anybody has access to it. You can download everything and you can read it from top to toe. The code is open. Everything in the blockchain is open except one thing. That's your private key. It's an RSA elliptic curve, private key, public key encryption. And what that means is that you have one private key that is only yours, and you have one public key that anybody can see. Public key is your address. Private key is what unlocks the coins, what you make transactions with the private key. The way you can look at private key, public key encryption, and the way they sort of hang together is that your public key is a lock. Your private key is the key to the lock. The lock, you have millions and millions and trillions and millions of locks that you can send to anybody. It doesn't matter. Just give them as many locks as they want. They'll take some data, they'll put it in a crate, they'll lock it up, and they'll lock it with your lock. There is only one key, which means that when they have locked it, not even they can open it. You are the only one that can open that lock because you have only one key. That's sort of an easy explanation of a private key, public key encryption and the way they sort of stick together. Okay? Good. Wrong way. So what is this magnificent thing? Basically, if you want the easy answer, it's a transaction log. Done. Nothing else, nothing more. Don't think about anything else. It's a transaction log that's distributed. So if we go back to the first one, transaction log, transaction log, transaction log, transaction log, and they're all the same. So the thing is with Bitcoin that is, if everybody has the same transaction log, usually the bank holds that. Now every individual on the blockchain holds that transaction log. So there is no point for a bank. So today when you do a purchase in the shop, you actually, what you will do is give away your keys to your bank account and your identification. That's what you give away to the shop, to the vendor, whatever, on the internet. That's what you give away. You give away your name and your keys to your bank account. What they then do is take that information, they go to the bank and they ask, does this person have that money? And the bank says yes. And then they say, okay, here are the keys to his bank account. Give me X amount of money from that bank account. The thing is that you have to trust this vendor that you bought from, that he'll only take the amount that was agreed upon. He has your keys to your bank account. Now in Norway, this isn't a big issue. Obviously, we sort of have controls. We secure this in different ways. But it's kind of hefty the way we secure it. And yeah, you don't have much to worry about in Norway when it comes to that, but it's still an issue. So with blockchain technology, that's called a pull technology, by the way. So you have the keys and you pull the data out of the person's account, and the data is obviously the money. So you pull the money out of his account. Blockchain is a push technology, or Bitcoin at least is a push technology. So instead of giving away your keys, you give away the money. Sort of logical, isn't it? You don't give away the keys to your bank vault, you give away the money. And that's called a push technology. So you push the value out instead of them dragging it out. Push and pull technology. So that was just sort of an introduction. So basically, more technical, it's a decentralized database where the data is stored different places. And every entity, well, this is not true, but this is what we hope for. This is sort of the blockchain way, is that every entity should have a copy of the database. Now, the Bitcoin blockchain, I think, is up at 70 gigabytes or something, and you don't want that on your mobile phone. So we have something called tin clients and stuff like that, but we can get back to that in the end if you want. We have solutions for that as well. Basically, every participant of the network has a copy of the ledger. So everybody knows how much everybody has, and the minute you try to change that, everybody has to agree with it, or else the change won't happen. And this, every input in the blockchain is linked to the next. So does everybody here know, or anybody here that doesn't know what a SHA-256 is? A hash function. You don't know, okay. So a hash function definitely, or basically, a hash function, if you put some data into a hash function, and the data, for every time you put data into the hash function and run the hash function, if the data is the same, you'll get the same result. If you put in the letter A in a hash function, you'll get 64 characters, cryptographically 64 characters. And every time you put in an A, you'll get the same result. That's sort of verification of the file, or the data, or whatever it is, the string, or the int, or whatever it is. And you can put anything, as long as it's digital data, you can put anything into this function, anything. And it'll always, always, always give you 64 characters. Always. I'm not 100% sure that it's 64, by the way. It might be something else, so probably double check that. But it'll give you an X amount of characters, no matter what. And it'll be the same as long as the data is the same. If you add a comma, it'll completely change, like completely. It won't look the same at all. The results, by the way, won't look the same at all. And that's sort of the hash function, and we use that to verify the data on the blockchain. When we're done, I can quickly show you a hash function. It's a big thing with blockchain. You need it for verification of data. It's a big thing. And we've done this for a long time. SHA-256 was created in 1996, and it's the newest technology in blockchain. So everything is blockchain is well tested, well tested. Like the RSA, public key, private key encryption, it's used by the military. And it's sort of the only thing that you can hack in the Bitcoin blockchain. So if that gets hacked, we sort of have bigger problems than Bitcoin. Definitely bigger problems than Bitcoin, but yeah. So the cryptography is a lot about hashes, and it's also something that's called a Merkle tree in here. But it's not encrypted. And that's the thing. A lot of people think that blockchains are encrypted. So yeah, I hear all the time, why don't we just put our medical data on this blockchain? No. Don't put my medical data on the blockchain because it's not encrypted. It'll be open. Anybody can read it. The reason why you can't hack the Bitcoin blockchain is because you have all the data. There's nothing to hack. So it's not encrypted, but there's a lot of cryptography in it. But the cryptography is for verifying and structure. Nothing else. It's not to secure your data. It's just for verifying that you have the same data as your neighbor. And your neighbor has the same data as the other neighbor. That's what you use it for. And you also use it for the structure. So when you create a block on the blockchain that contains data, and most of it is transactions, you also have some metadata. You know what metadata is? Data about the data. So timestamps is metadata and stuff, and you have a nonce and stuff like that. In Bitcoin, you do a SHA-256 of the block. The result of that SHA-256 is brought with it to the next block. And that's the way you link it. And when you do a SHA-256 of this block, you take the result, you put it in the header of the next block, you do a SHA-256 of all the data in that block, including the result of the hash in the previous block. What will happen then is the chaining. You will chain all the data together in the blocks, and if you change a block that was created a week ago, you'll have to change every other block. Because when you change the block from a week ago, the hash will change from that block, and that block is chained with the hash, and you'll have to do all that work again. That's why it's secure. because you'll need to create one block, you'll need 150,000 years with a laptop. And you'll have to catch up with the network anyway as well. You'll have to be faster than the network and catch up with it and beat the network to actually be able to do that change. So in theory, changes are possible, but now it's not possible. You'll need about, I read a comment on some forum somewhere, we read a lot of stuff, but you'll need about 5 atomic plants to create the electricity, and then you need the gear to be able to hold it for 10 minutes. So, good luck. Process automation. Now we do this today. There's a lot of process automation that we do, a lot of it. But the thing is that for many companies, there is a lot that can't be automated for the simple reason that they have to verify their legality. They have to send papers between each other, sign them, and it'll take 2 weeks until it arrives, and this person has to check it, and this person has to check it, and so on and so forth. And it'll take a lot of time, and there's a lot of breakage in the automation of a process because of it. But with blockchain, you can verify your company once, store it on the blockchain, prove that you pay taxes and that you pay whatever to the company or to Norway. And you don't have to do that over and over again. You can just point at that place in the blockchain. And the person can actually verify that within seconds and not weeks. And then you can do a lot of automation. A lot of automation. We'll all lose our jobs. But yeah. Oops. Oh, good. Yeah, so a lot of process automation is possible with a blockchain, especially it depends on what data is in there. But if you think you know process automation today, wait until we get blockchains. Wait until we get blockchains. I'll get back to that. I have a really good example of it. And obviously you can move value. So, and like I said, that blockchain is the first thing that we have that is to something physical. I know this doesn't have a lot of value, but it does have a value, and I can move it. I can give it to anybody if I owned it already. And so obviously you can do that with blockchain. And you do that with a digital entity. But the cool thing is that a digital entity can represent something physical. So a fish might be represented in something digital that's put on the blockchain. A car, a house, whatever. You can put that on a blockchain and represent it as something digital. Google, Samsung, I think it's Google and Samsung, they've actually managed to make a digital footprint on different digital data that actually makes it unique, and they're trying to build IoT on it, Internet of Things, to use that as an identificator on things like IoT. So yeah, where can you use it? You can't read this. I just think the picture was really cool, so it's there. You can use this in ecosystems that has value that moves. Any type of ecosystem that has value that moves, blockchain is good for that. You have ecosystems where you can have different entities connected to it. So supplier, shop, and you can have users, you can have employees, you can have the government, you can have regulatory things on top of it. Anything really, since it's a shared database, anybody can connect to it. Blockchain is sort of, if you want to compare blockchain to the internet, as a lot of people do, internet is a really stupid platform in the center. So it takes data from point A to point B and it doesn't care about anything else. So it's really, really, really stupid in the center, but it supports smart entities at the end. And what that does is that you have innovation at the end instead of in the center. Now, if you want something different than that, the telephone company network, so Telenor, they're the complete different. They have a really, really smart platform in the center that supports stupid entities at the end. The difference is that I can make a homepage that does something spectacular, and don't ask anybody for permission to put that site on the internet. I just have to pay for a domain name. If I want that, I can use an IP address as well, and I need a server and stuff like that, but nobody can stop me from doing it. If I want to innovate like that on Telenor's net, I'll have to ask them, and I'll definitely say no, I'd say. Or they'll want money or something, I don't know. But yeah, there's a reason why we don't innovate on Telenor's network. But with blockchain, it's the same. You have a stupid platform in the middle, like I mean really stupid. Like this thing doesn't care at all. As long as you can prove legality with your private key, you will be able to do whatever you want on the blockchain with that data that you own. But then again, the innovation can happen at the end because it supports really, really smart clients. So you can build anything on top of the blockchain. In the end, the wallet can do whatever you want. Already existing markets that are already out there that needs an update, that are really hard to update. I'd say a good example of that would be iThoughts. I don't know if anybody's seen the network of iThoughts and all the servers and how they're connected and stuff like that. But it's a reason why it takes 2-3 months before you get your money. I've seen the network and I've seen all the lines, and it looks worse than the internet on the globe. It's crazy. That would be nice to just scrap everything and just build something new. It'll be a lot faster, a lot cheaper, a lot more efficient, I do believe, than actually understanding how everything in iThought is connecting. It's crazy. It's crazy. Actually, I had one teacher that was going to update iThought, and they were going to build a whole new system. And he was the one that showed me the picture, actually. And after sort of going through the whole network and finding out how it works, they said, no, we're not doing this. Just patch it, because this is ridiculous. And sort of markets like that would be nice to have a blockchain in it. Helse Sør-Øst. Like, I'm from Oslo, so Helse Sør-Øst is sort of for me. They have 803 databases. 803 databases. That's crazy. And there's so much duplicate data on those databases, it's ridiculous. In Norway, you're not allowed to send, so if I'm a doctor, you're a doctor. I'm not allowed to send my data over to you via the internet. I have to send it in the post. Because as a receiver, you can't be 100% sure that that data is correct, that you receive. Somebody could be in the middle, do changes, or they'll just be in the middle and read the data, copy it, I don't know. But you have man-in-the-middle attacks. That it is possible, and you can never be 100% sure that the data you received is correct. So they'll have to actually send it by post, and you'll have to manually input it. I've experienced this firsthand. My doctor didn't know about a disease that I got in a hospital, and 5 years after, my doctor didn't know, and he still hasn't gotten the data delivered to him. It's ridiculous. It is actually quite ridiculous. Faster trading, basically. Any sort of trade will be a lot faster, and that will be good for any society. The faster you can do trades, the faster you can agree on stuff, the better for anybody, really. For the companies, for the users, for anybody. The faster it goes, the better it is. And one example here that I talked about before is my dad works in DNB, and he trades money. So he trades euro, Norwegian crowns, and dollars and Norwegian crowns. And sort of the banks, they do a lot of loans. And he's talking about this all day long at work, I'd say, because they're sort of scared of the technology. You know, JP Morgan going out and saying it's a scam and pyramid scheme, and the dollar is a fucking pyramid scheme, not Bitcoin. Come on, man. Learn what a pyramid scheme is. But anyway, so he had an idea that I thought was really, really, really good, and this was an idea collision. I talk a lot about blockchain with my dad. He's sort of so sick of hearing about it that he sort of pukes, but he had a really good idea, because I bought an apartment of somebody that built new apartments. And the thing is that it's really normal that they have to sell, for example, 50% of all the apartments has to be sold. And that's sort of the bank that says that if you sell 50% of all those apartments, I'll give you the loan to build this thing. A lot of contracts, a lot of people that you have to trust, a lot of people that you have to trust. And it's not small money, it's a lot of million crowns in this. So what you can do is utilize a blockchain for this. This is perfect for a blockchain. This is a great example of how you can automate stuff that you can't process automate today. And that is, if 50% of all the apartments are sold, do the loan. This is some pseudo code for you. Give the loan, pay all partners, start building. So the apartments, they need walls, they need lights, they need electricians, they need plumbers, they need whatever. You need a lot of stuff when you do this. All that can be predefined in a contract and put on the blockchain that will execute if this is true. And after, I don't know, 2-3 months, if this still isn't true, pay everybody back. So the bank has already paid the loan, but not to the receiver. It's paid a loan to the blockchain that nobody owns. Okay? And they've already told who is going to build stuff, who's the electrician, everything is planned beforehand. And they've also said we need 500 walls if this goes true. And the thing is that when you start building all these walls, the company that builds the walls doesn't really need to know that you're building the walls. The machines that build the walls can check the blockchain and just get a notification. Start building this. Here's the money. Done. Blockchain also brings that computers can actually own money. And that's sort of crazy. Computers can't own money today, but a blockchain they can. So a blockchain, they can pay for washing the car, services on the car. When you think about automated cars that are sort of just around the corner, you can have taxis, a taxi company that nobody owns. It's just cars that pay for themselves. Think about how cheap taxi service you'll get if nobody needs the money from it. It only has to pay for itself. Pay for petrol, pay for washing, pay for insurance, pay for whatever. Because the car can actually own money. So when you take a taxi drive, you just beep and send it money. And then there's the regulatory stuff for sort of. I've been thinking a lot about Uber. Last couple of days, they pulled out in Norway. And that's because the Norwegian government they can't handle Uber because it's so new, the technology, they just haven't, they don't have an infrastructure to handle this. So they just have to make it illegal. Well, not illegal, but they've made it hard enough for Uber to say, well, I'm not doing this in Norway anymore. Uber is really nice. I use Uber all the time. It's perfect. Like, you don't need a løyve. You don't need to know every road in Oslo to be a taxi driver today. Have you heard about GPS? I mean, it's ridiculous. Uber even tells you where to drive before you get into the car. So I don't need all that stuff that sort of the laws tell you that you need. I don't need that. I have Uber. Uber's perfect. But the problem with the Norwegian government can't control it in any way. They don't know who's driving, when they're driving, where they're driving, how often they're driving, how much money they're getting in. It's hard to get that data. With a blockchain, you can easily get that data. You just tell Uber, here's a blockchain. It's open. Here's the API documentation. You need to put this data, this data, this data, this data. Has to go in here. And in that way, you can actually sit on top and just have a layer and actually find out a lot about the activity going on in different places. And it's just not Uber. It's not only Uber, it's different places as well that you can use this. And I'll get back to that in a bit. So, identity. Today, if you want to do B2B, business to business transactions, especially if it's new businesses that hasn't done business before, you have to prove your legality as a business. So the legality is, for example, do you pay taxes? There's a lot of issues with this, especially in the building companies. Do they pay taxes? Do all their employees pay taxes? Are their employees allowed to actually work in Norway? So on and so forth. And this has to be proven every time they do business. So it's paper. Forward and back, and you have to ask the government, is this company legit, if you want to be sure, and stuff like that. And when you do business to business, you as a business, it's your job to find out that information, nobody else. You need to find it out yourself. So if you do business with a company that doesn't pay taxes, it's your fault as a business. With a blockchain, you can identify yourself once. One time. You identify yourself as a business, you prove that you pay taxes, and you identify yourself with the government. That's stored on the blockchain. Every time you do business with another company, you can point to that reference in the blockchain. And as long as that reference is still owned by you, yes?
What if you stop paying taxes?
Then the government will take that ownership.
But still, I mean, if you refer to that specific block, that will always tell you.
It'll always be there, but you will see with the chaining that someone else has taken that ownership, so the old one isn't valid anymore. And if you then see that the government has taken back the ownership of that token, every blockchain has a token, if you see that they've taken that ownership back of that token, you're not legit anymore. You closed down, you didn't pay your taxes, whatever. You did some illegal stuff with your business, I don't know. So yeah, again, you have to build it in a way that actually makes sense. But yeah, good question. Yeah?
The tokens,
Yeah.
is that the outputs on the blockchain? Inputs, outputs?
It's a result of all the inputs and outputs. So to answer your question a bit differently, in a blockchain, Bitcoins don't exist. If I use Bitcoin blockchain as an example, Bitcoin don't exist. You have no Bitcoins.
No.
The only thing that with the blockchain, the reason Bitcoins live and they exist is because the Bitcoins is the result of all the transactions that have happened on the blockchain. So there is no Bitcoins, there's only transactions. And you know an integer. The only thing with the Bitcoin blockchain is that the result is displayed as an integer, well, a float with comma, something. So there is no Bitcoin, it's just the result of all the transactions put together. The result can be displayed as anything. So in Bitcoin, the result is always Bitcoin. In another blockchain, the result can be my car, my house, and that painting and those diamonds. That can be the result. But it's still a token on the blockchain. You can't have a blockchain without a token. A blockchain is a transactional history. It's a transactional blockchain or a transactional database. And a transaction always has a result. What that result is varies. But I defined it as a token on the blockchain. Does that answer it?
Yes.
Yeah? Good. So, companies. You tell the Norwegian government, hello, I'm a new company, I'll start up, here's my taxes, here's everything, and as long as I pay my taxes, I will stay as legit on the blockchain. So when I do business with another company, I can say, hey, this is my business on the blockchain, here's the link, check it out. Done, finished. You know that it's legal. And you can start doing business immediately. You can automate that as well. Easily, you can easily automate that. So in a matter of seconds instead of weeks, you'll have seconds, you'll have a business-to-business opportunity. That does something big, actually. And then there is the easy parts. If you follow the long car, house, boat, diamond, fish, that's easy to understand why you should put that on it. Obviously, we don't need the government to know who owns what car, as long as the car and the users know what owns it. And you don't have to pay the government, what is it, 1,500 crowns to change the ownership? I think it's something like that, isn't it? I haven't bought one car in my whole life, so I don't remember, but I think it's 1,500 crowns. This can be done with a beep on a QR code. Government doesn't need to know that. They can just check the blockchain, who owns what. And what's even cooler is that not only you, the government, and the seller knows who owns the car, but if you drag it a bit further, the car knows who owns it. So the car will only open for the new owner, for example. The house will only open for the new owner. The TV will only turn itself on from its owner. You can even drag this further, say mobile phones. You can put mobile phones on the blockchain and have a state. Sold, not sold. If it's not sold, it will never work. If it's sold, it will work only for its buyer. So if somebody steals all the phones from a trolley or somewhere and it isn't sold, it'll never work. So nobody will have an incentive to steal phones anymore, unless they want the gold inside, unless they want the actual hardware. We can't stop that. But the software we can stop with a blockchain. It won't work as long as you haven't sold the phone. So the phone will know itself if it's sold or not via the blockchain. And that's sort of interesting as well. Like, it's really nerdy stuff, but this is, when you see futuristic stuff, it looks like that, and this is sort of it. Oh yeah, and when you buy something, as I said, it'll happen instantly. You don't need to wait a week to get your papers. It'll just happen. On Bitcoin blockchain, it'll take maximum of 10 minutes, roughly. I don't know if you know the mining time on get confirmations on a transaction. I can talk about a little bit about attacking the blockchains, or attacking blockchains when we're done, if you want. And how it can be done theoretically, and what you actually will be possible to do if you manage to do it, if you want. So a little bit more. This is the wrong way, isn't it? There you go. Okay, so I had a talk. Wow, this is really, really bad. This image is the Bitcoin blockchain. It's an interesting illusion of how many parts that can actually be connected. You can't read this, I'd say. So, but it's different entities, miners, blockchain users, companies, different entities connected to the same source of data. Today you will have, the way it works today, this blockchain data will be stored in different places, and everybody will have, so instead of everybody connected to the same data source, all the data sources will be connected to each other, and every different identity will be connected to its own data source. So you'll have more copies of the master data. That also needs to be updated in the correct way, without hashes and without verification. So that's just a little bit about the image. I just think it's a really cool image, so I just put it there. It's a nice illustration of how it can work. And we just had an election. Say everybody knows that. And I remember I took my vote and I put it in one of those voting things. And when I let it go, I don't know anything else. That's it. That's all I know. I don't know if it's being counted. I don't know if it's being counted correctly. I don't know who counted it. I don't know. I just have to trust the news. I just have to trust the people that counted. I just have to trust the machines that counted. Well, now I don't think we did machines this year. I think we did it by hand, everything. So yeah, but then again, I have to trust all the people in that room that counted those. And I'll tell you what, human error is a lot bigger than machine error, a lot bigger. So I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but that's the way it works today, and it's the best solution that we have. But with a blockchain, this is really cool, because then I can follow it all the way. I can actually see where my vote went. I can actually see the whole path of the vote, and you can drag that even further and say everybody that you voted on into Stortinget, when they have a new vote on how to change the laws and stuff, they'll have to use those coins in their vote, and I can track that as well. So I can see exactly who voted for what. And it should be that transparent. Me as a user of the Norwegian government should know that. The government isn't an institution. The government is supposed to represent the people. So if the government is supposed to represent the people, me as a person and as a part of people really need to know exactly what's going on inside there. With blockchain, we can do that. Yeah.
I can see privacy issues as well.
Definitely.
Because you said earlier that it's not public. Everything in the blockchain is public
Yep.
information. So, and in Norway we have secret votes. So, I don't want anyone to know if I voted or not.
Nobody will know that.
You don't.
You see, because your identity on the blockchain isn't you.
Okay.
It's a random hash.
Okay.
So nobody will know who that random hash is except you.
So you use a private key that you'll connect.
Yes.
Okay.
You use your private key and your public key to read your own data. So we can go into that at the end as well, the privacy of Bitcoin blockchain, because personally I don't think it's private enough. And you obviously agree with me, so that's good. But yeah, it's not private enough, so we can go into that at the end if you want. But yeah, good question. Good question, a really good point.
Yes, and surveillance as well.
Yeah, definitely. How are these things going to be distributed? How am I going to get my private key without the government knowing which private key I got? That's also an edge case. Good question. Good question. Yeah, and you can do small things as well. Like in this group, say you pay 10 crowns each week to do something in this group. Pay for pizza, beers, whatever. And you want to have a vote. Hva skal felleskassa gå til i dag, gutta? Kjøpe øl, eller dra til Syden? You can do those sorts of votes just as a gimmick if you want to test it, see what you can build. I don't think it's gonna like take off and this is the new thing, but that would be fun. I'm thinking about building something like that for Sky. Yeah? Did I hear a question? No? So yeah, that's just sort of a gimmick that I put in there because I want to build this for fun. So, food. Like I said, I worked for 6 years in the food industry. I worked for Kiwi. A long time, way too long, but yeah, I worked for Kiwi and I know a lot about food safety and how much that actually goes into food safety and protecting you as a user for food safety. Mattilsynet here in Norway, we had E. coli 2004, 2005. They used 70 million crowns to find out where it came from. 70 million crowns of tax money to find out where it came from. With a blockchain, if it's done right, beep, that's where it's from. Seconds, you know where it's from. So this is SCM, if you know SCM, supply chain management. What has happened to my food from farm to fork? Every instance that has happened, say milk for example, when the milk gets produced, you can register what cow produced it. You can register what pump pumped out the milk. Then you can register what container it went into, what temperature it was in the container, for how long did that temperature hold, for how long did the other temperature hold, when did it get emptied and loaded onto a truck to then be changed in some way to make real drinkable milk. And just follow the whole process. And when it actually gets into the shop, it has a small QR code, the way I see it anyway, small QR code, and you as a customer of the shop can bring out an app, beep, and you can see the whole thing, everything, what temperatures, when, where, what, everything. And if you only have, just make this example easy, if you only have the farmer and the shop, so if the farmer finds the E. coli, sorry, if the farmer finds out, oh, I have E. coli for some strange reason, he can go into the blockchain, he can write, I have E. coli, and sort of send out that message to the blockchain. Seconds after, when something is scanned in the cash register that has touched his products, that has something to do with him that might be with E. coli, it will flash red or something. You just say, you can't sell this. It has E. coli maybe. And suddenly, in a matter of seconds, from an E. coli spreading, you'll know what products, exactly what products might be infected with E. coli. So you won't have to take the whole thing. You won't have to take all of Gilde's meat and throw it away. You'll know exactly which ones. Yep.
I saw the video about Walmart
Yep.
where they printed mangoes digitally.
Yep.
Have they made standards or is it
No.
Walmart's own? Yes.
Walmart's only.
own.
Yes.
Okay, then.
This is very new technology. Walmart and IBM, they're trying to build exactly what I said. You saw the video, good. That's a really good example of how to use a blockchain and how to utilize it. This is Walmart and IBM food safety. So again, really good question. And no, it's so new that nobody has made standards. And it's sort of like the chicken and the egg question. Who's gonna pay money to actually make these standards if nobody owns the thing, nobody makes money of the thing? Who's going to make it? I think the government will have to make it, but yeah.
Yeah, because if you're going to use your app, then you have to have access to the digital print, right?
Yes.
So you have to have access.
The standard will be,
Yeah.
yeah, that standard will be in the blockchain. So the blockchain will make that standard. Yeah, I misunderstood your question. The blockchain will make that standard. The data in the blockchain will be the same for everybody.
Yeah, but just print on the mangoes, I was thinking, but print on the food. Is that different? Is that Walmart's own print?
You mean the
The actual print on the food?
yeah, the thing that you scan?
Yeah.
No, the things that you scan, they're unified. They're exactly the same for each product. So each Kiwi or Rema 1000, if it's a Coke, half a liter of Coke, it'll be the same barcode on both of those Cokes, yeah. It'll be the same barcode. But they'll need another type of identification. The barcode isn't, it's the same for everything, so they'll need a unique identification for each bottle.
Yeah, and then you can link it to the bar.
Yes,
blockchain.
yes.
Yeah.
With the case for Walmart.
Yep,
Since I guess this blockchain is owned by Walmart.
yes,
So in that sense, you kind of lose a lot of
Yes.
what you started with talking about, like the fact that it's distributed makes it safe and so on. So if you lose that, what then is the really big core difference between using a blockchain for this case
or in MySQL.
instead of using a database and API?
Yeah.
Because if they own it, they can manipulate it potentially if they want. And so it's like, as I see it, I don't think that, I have a hard time seeing that the data storage structure is the main problem with that whole scenario you're sketching up.
Yeah.
How is kind of the blockchain going to make the big difference?
The thing about the blockchain is that the data you put in can't change.
Well, it can.
If they own it.
If they own it, they're the only ones generating blocks on the chip.
Yeah, so it depends on how they build the blockchain. But basically, if you have a copy of the blockchain,
Will they do it like that? Will they distribute it?
that's the question. Will they build it like that? I don't know. And yeah, you will lose a lot of security. You will lose a lot of stuff like that. But if they don't build it like that, there is no point in using money on it. Because the big thing here is that if you can't change the data and you want other entities on it, you will have to build it in a certain way that you have to make sure that nobody can change the data, or else it will be useless. It will actually be useless. I hope IBM are telling Walmart that no, you can't have 100% control over this. That's the whole point. Walmart doesn't want control over data from other companies. They just want the data to be secure. They want the data to be correct.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, yeah. Good question. Good question. I'm not 100% sure about that. No. Yeah. Good point. Good point. But hopefully they'll build it in a way, and hopefully it'll be open source. That's the main issue here. If you build a blockchain, it has to be open source.
I think it needs to be like cross-company ownership, so that all the vendors involved in that blockchain can have a node. So then you have trust.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
It's not. There is no trust, and it's no point in using.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, something like that. But anyway, it's possible. Yeah.
So I was to this 3D printing conference thing yesterday, and sort of when they're all sort of presenting the use cases, all the art projects pop up, right? 3D printing, sort of fancy dresses or wearables or whatever. And with the internet, you have Second Life and all these crazy art projects. So where are the art projects and the creative stuff in blockchain?
Bitcoin.
Yeah, but sort of more hippie, crazy stuff, right?
Isn't Bitcoin quite hippie and crazy? I mean, isn't owned by anyone, isn't controlled by anyone.
That's mainstream. So where are the creative examples, right? Where is the fun, you know? I'm thinking like Dogecoin and Putin coin.
Dogecoin.
Where is the fun in this? All this utilitarian stuff.
Well, since...
Should anything of this be useful? Can nothing of it be fun? Or just for shits?
Yeah, this is for shit, isn't it?
It's sort of a solution to a problem, right?
Yeah. But this is really boring stuff. This is a new foundation of everything we built on top of. So this isn't something new, bleeding edge on top of what we have already built. This is just destroying everything we have and starting over. So this is boring stuff. This is how to structure a MySQL database. This is probably the most boring stuff you can do in IT. It's when you've done all this, what you can build on top of it that's cool.
Yeah,
That's what's fun, but this is boring as hell.
Yeah, well, where's all the art? Where's all the fun stuff?
Yeah, well, personally, if I can go in and scan my milk and see what happened to it, who did wash, and what the cow's name was, that would be awesome.
Business, right?
That'd be cool. To me, that would be cool anyway. So, yeah, but yeah, where's all the cool stuff? The cool stuff. Yeah, email isn't cool, but that was the cool stuff when internet came. So, but then we got Facebook, and that's really cool. So, yeah, good point. Where's all the cool stuff? I totally understand that, and this is really boring stuff. But once you get this, once you built this, you can build Facebook. So it's once we have an understanding and have sort of a unified way to do this, that's when we can build stuff. When we have the TCP/IP stack and everybody agrees on the stack, this is the way the stack is supposed to work, that's when we can actually build cool stuff on top of it.
I think your question is, has anyone done anything crazy with the blockchain?
Oh yeah. Definitely. You want to hear some cool stuff? Yeah. we have something that's called, one of the coolest things that I vote SV, and this guy votes red, so he's worse than me, but I really believe in fellesskapet. And there is a guy that wanted to solve world hunger and plastic problem at the same time. So he wanted nobody to starve, and he wanted to remove all plastic. He did that with a blockchain. That's pretty cool.
It's not art. It has a purpose, right? Whereas the...
Well, what he did was that he made a blockchain with a coin that he valued at something. So poor people down in third world countries, he built like small weights and stuff, and you can pick plastic, put it on this weight, and it'll get the coin. Then you can use the coin and get money for it. It's pretty cool. So poor people can walk around the beach and gather plastic and actually get money for it. And what he did, the way he created value out of it, was that a lot of companies need plastic to create new stuff. So he sold the plastic again to other companies, and he takes a small percentage. So 1 kilo of plastic costs 10 crowns. He'll sell it for, or he'll buy it for 9 and sell it for 10. That's the way he creates value for his company. To me, that's pretty cool. We can't do that with Norwegian crown. We can't do that with dollars. It just doesn't work.
It's utilitarian, right?
Yeah.
So it has a purpose.
But you want, like, how...
Yeah, I want the art projects, right? Beautiful stuff.
You want AI with a blockchain. That's what you want.
We can discuss this.
Yeah, it's an afterwards discussion. But yeah, again, this is boring stuff. It's new. That makes it kind of cool, but it's still quite boring. Yeah. Any other questions, by the way? Yeah.
Jeg tar rett på norsk.
Ja.
Vet du om en lastebil som skulle kjøre fiskevarer til en fiskebutikk? Men bedriften var tom for den fryselager, den var til reparasjon eller noe sånt, så de måtte bruke en vanlig en. Og på veien så tinte jo en del av denne frysefisken, men ble levert. Når han hadde fått den inn I butikken og kunne ha skannet dette, så kunne han ha sett denne feilen der og sagt at denne her kan jeg ikke fryse, den må selge med en gang.
Han hadde sett det før fisken kom inn.
Nei, han så det ikke.
Nei, men med en blockchain. Så hadde han kunnet sett dette før det I det hele kom inn.
Ja.
Nå hadde han sagt, nei, den bilen der kan bare snu, her temperaturen feil.
Men ikke alle som vil ha kjøpt den fisken når de vet hvordan den har blitt transportert.
Ikke sant?
Nei, altså, du er avhengig av at alle bilene har mulighet til å registrere dette inn på blockchain.
Yes, det derfor den åpen.
Dette
derfor den er åpen.
handler jo om at alle vil være ærlige. For det er klart, når det sendte feil lastebil, så kunne de også sagt at denne fisken har ikke vært fryst til transport. Da kunne de gjort uten blockchain, men det skjedde ikke.
Nei.
Så dette jo ikke helt tidsnavn. Jeg tror ikke du eliminerer den med blockchain heller.
Nei, det gjør det nok ikke, men du kommer nærme. Du kan komme veldig nærme med sensorteknologi.
Sånn som I videoen vi får se, så vil de ha funnet ut at her det noe.
Ja, men med sensorteknologi da, så det jo flere ledd du har, jo flere folk vil være ærlige I leddene, ikke sant? Så hvis du bare har ett ledd, så har du, siste leddet uærlig, så har du et problem. Har du 10 ledd, og det en I det leddet som uærlig, så det veldig enkelt å plukke det opp, at han har vært uærlig. Akkurat det eksempelet ditt.
Ja, jeg kan si det var
3 ledd. Ja, det tror jeg du hadde fanget opp ganske greit, ja, altså. Jeg tror du ville gjort det. Igjen, det kommer an på hvordan du bygger denne blockchainen, og hvor mye kontroll du vil ha. Men med sensorteknologi veldig vanskelig å manipulere. Du må bygge om sensoren til å registrere noe annet. En sensor registrerer en temperatur. Den vanskelig. Så tanken med en blockchain ikke at sjåføren skal gå inn og skrive nå var det 10 grader, nå var det 5 grader. Det ikke der blockchain ligger. Blockchain mye mer automatisert enn det. Så alle disse sensorene vil være inne I bilen som vil registrere...
Om vi ikke hadde den riktige bilen, så var jo ingen sensor I den bilen.
Nei, men da det ikke registrert.
Nei, men det ble fortsatt levert til butikken.
Ja, men da det butikkens feil. Butikken burde da, hvis en blockchain implementert og alle enig I det, så hvis butikken mottar varer og det ikke registrert på blockchain, så jo ikke de varene gyldig.
Ja, men uten en blockchain så...
Uten blockchainen så har du ikke peiling.
Ja, det nettopp det. Ja.
Det veldig sant.
Det en veldig god ting som hadde vært bra.
Ja, hvis man klarer å bygge det igjen, hvis man klarer å bygge det riktig. Men ja, det også et godt poeng det der. Yes?
Så han sier da, I forhold til kjeltringskap, det jo ingen problem med å manipulere temperaturdata I et signal.
Hvor mye får du ut av å manipulere de temperaturene? Deg som individ som kjører den bilen.
Ja, men hvis du for eksempel, hvis det dyrt å ha bilen på service, så det billigere å manipulere dataene på temperaturgiverne.
Men hvis du lagrer tilstanden av innstillingene på den temperaturmåleren på blockchainen som temperaturen må sjekke via en tilgangskontroll via den blockchainen for I det hele tatt kunne registrere data på den blockchainen. Så hvis du gjør en endring på den, så ikke den gyldig lenger I blockchainen.
Temperaturgiverne består jo som regel av en bilmetallbytter eller drikkehandel.
Ja, jeg hadde en termos. Ja, det kan godt hende. Det kan godt hende. Men jeg tror det finnes løsninger på det som du kan gjøre på en ordentlig måte. I hvert fall om du ikke får det 100% trygt. Det veldig mange som på en måte går etter den 100%. Så ligger vi kanskje på 30 I dag, og så kan vi øke det til 60. Så jo det en veldig god forbedring også da. Så ja, igjen, veldig godt poeng. Du kan sikkert manipulere de greiene her. Jeg klarer å hacke ting jeg også. Så det... Yes?
Tilbake til litt kjedeligere teknisk spørsmål.
Yes, go.
Altså en blockchain, den jo kopi, altså alle kopier av alle data, sant? Nå cirka bitcoin på 70 gigabyte, du sa. Hva skjer? Hvordan håndterer du lagring? Altså bare noen dokumenter, helsejournaler, og så videre. Altså 70 gigabyte er jo absolutt ingenting. Jeg står minst alle skal ha en kopi av alle dataene. Hvordan blir det praktisk håndtert? Pluss at de dataene er jo åpne inni der. Du kan kanskje kryptere den med din egen nøkkel inn i volten, men volten er like stor. Så hvordan klarer han å få scalingen på det til å jeg ser ikke hvordan det er mulig.
Jeg personlig ville aldri lagt den dataen på blockchainen. Jeg ville kun lagt tilstanden av den dataen på blockchain. Det er snakk om en kilobyte per fil eller en samling av filer. Ja, hashen av filen ville jeg lagt inn på en blockchain, og så ville jeg lagret filen på vanlige måter som vi gjør i dag med en MySQL, med linking eller hva det enn skulle være da. Yes, så det er det der du bare sjekker om dataen du sitter på er lik som det alle andre sitter på da. Hvis du bruker en Cassandra-database for eksempel til å distribuere dataen. En blockchain er ikke der for datalagring. En blockchain er der for verifisering av dataen som man putter inn. Så det er ikke en database i den forstand at den lagrer hva som helst av data. Jeg hadde aldri puttet noe som helst form av sensitiv data på en blockchain. Men en tilstand av den sensitive dataen som igjen da går inn i din database, det kan du putte på en blockchain. Og når du da sender de filene fra bedrift til bedrift, så kan bedriften i mottakerende sjekke den filen opp mot den åpne blockchainen for å verifisere gyldigheten av den filen han har fått tilsendt. Er du med?
Ja da, så det er akkurat som du laster ned og får på en måte en kode, så du kan verifisere det.
Ja.
Kjør på det, at ok, dette er faktisk det data.
Jeg kan vise dere et eksempel på det. Jeg har kodet opp en liten prototype. Det er egentlig ikke klart for å vises frem i det hele tatt. Den er jo ikke alfa 001 engang, men jeg kan godt vise den etterpå, så man får en litt sånn ordentlig use case på blockchainen da. Ja, bra. Jeg var vel på brukeridentitet, var jeg ikke det? Brukeridentitet, hvis det er noen kloke hoder her inne som har lyst til å bli ja? Oh yeah, sorry, English. User identity. If there's anybody in this room that are really, really brainiacs and want to make trillions and trillions of dollars and make the next Google, this is where you want to look. I believe this is where you want to look. If you can somehow make it possible, if you think about the first one that I told you about, this one, it can be solved with this one. So if you have user identity without a username and a password and it's a digital identifier, you can actually own what's on the blockchain. For example, this is not a good example, but I'm not a brainiac, so I haven't the solution. But for example, facial recognition. Like today you have a private key. If you lose that private key, it's gone. If you can recreate that private key with facial recognition, you're golden. The issue with facial recognition is if I crash and lose half my face, what do I do? When I don't know how good the facial recognition technology is, but if I haven't had a facial recognition from I was 10 till I was 80, will it still recognize me? Will it still create the same key? So again, facial recognition is just an example, the same with fingerprints. You can have a chip inside your hand. The problem with that is that if I have a chip inside my hand or you use your fingerprint, and you know that I have 40 million crowns on that chip and that fingerprint, you'll definitely cut it off. You don't want that, do you? So basically, this is hard. But if you manage to actually find a solution for this, you'll have the next Google company, you'll have the next Facebook. You will build a huge company on top of this. I do believe. Because this will solve a lot of edge case problems with blockchain. A lot of edge case problems with blockchain. So it's just a gimmick that I threw in. Just in case somebody actually solves it. That would be awesome. Then I would be really happy. That would be cool. And then the next one is billetter. I just forgot the English word for it. Thank you, tickets. When you're multilingual, you sort of just flip between languages. I'm born and raised on English and Norwegian, so I've always known both languages, so you tend to flip them a bit. But yeah, tickets. Today, if you buy a concert ticket and you can't go to the concert, you're allowed to sell it, but you're not allowed to sell it for more than what it actually costs originally. So that's no problem. That works. That's fine. But if you buy a ticket, you don't know if that ticket is valid until you actually you're in the queue and want to get in, and the guy beeps it. That's when you know if it's legal or valid or not. That's pretty shitty if the ticket costs 2,000 crowns and it's not valid. Somebody copied it. Tickets can be copied, so you have no idea if it's valid. If all tickets are on the blockchain, you'll definitely know if it's valid, and you'll easily be able to change the ownership of that ticket, easily, with a blockchain. Same goes for train tickets. Now, a train ticket isn't personal, so if I buy a train ticket, and I don't know if you have this installed, but I have an NSB app, and I can have my train ticket on the app. If I lose my phone, I lose my ticket. And that's because the ticket isn't connected to me personally, it's connected to the device. So if I sell my device or buy a new device, I'll still have to have the ticket on this device, because it actually, this is the device that owns it. So if I want to change it to my new device, I'll have to call NSB and they'll have to change it for me and do it manually, and it's just a mess. It's basically just keep your phone until your thing goes out. So if we could put that on a blockchain instead, we could easily just change the ownership. And the ticket can be yours, personally. You can own the ticket. And what's cool about that as well is that if you buy a card that works for a month, but 2 weeks after you break your leg, you can't go to work anymore, you can sell it. 2 months left. Anybody can see that this ticket has 2 months left. Normal ticket costs, for me, it costs 1,200 crowns a month. So 2 weeks left, maybe I'll sell it for 500. At least I'll get some money back. So tickets is a big thing as well, I do believe, for blockchain, and the post, obviously. I mean, all the packages, when you check, where is my package? Come on, a lot of people need to know that. And a lot of companies need to know that. Kiwi, Oops, Mega, all the shops that receive the packages. Stuff like that is perfect on blockchain. And then to sum it all up, the last one here sort of just sums everything up into 2 lines. You prove the state of anything digital at a given time. So you can prove the state of anything digital at a given time. It's a timestamp database. And you can do secure transactions or transfers, whatever that value will be. So I don't know if I said this, but today 2 doctors can't communicate patient documents over the internet. I think I said that. With a blockchain they can. With a blockchain you can be for the first time ever, we can be 100% sure that the data we received hasn't been altered in any way. For first time ever. We have never had that opportunity at all. We haven't even been close enough, in my opinion. And that's it. Questions? Bitcoin is there because I haven't talked a lot about Bitcoin, but obviously I can answer those questions as well. If you want to ask me what to invest in, go somewhere else. I don't know. I just buy, I don't invest, I just buy and hold. I tried to sell, lost a lot of money on that, so yeah, I just fuck it, hold. Yeah.
When did you kind of realize the potential of blockchain, and when did you get into Bitcoin and so on? How long ago?
2010. I heard it for the first time, laughed my head off, went home to copy some Bitcoins. Used about 6 months and I've never been so wrong in my whole entire life. I thought Bitcoin was just ridiculous. It took about 6 months until I sort of grasped the technology and then fell in love with it. But it was the reason I sort of grasped it was because my father's a currency trader. So he sort of told me about it. He got the whiff of it immediately. And he told me about it, and he started asking questions, and I couldn't really answer them. Like, I thought that Bitcoin mining was that you got an encrypted file that contained Bitcoin, and you had to decrypt it. I thought that was Bitcoin mining. So I had no idea what I was talking about. My dad asked some hard questions, and I did my research, learned it, and went, oh my God, this is amazing.
Overall, do you see that Bitcoin can, or any other cryptocurrency could sometime in the future replace our normal currencies that
No.
we see today? Because my feeling there is that it's so unstable today, right? So you can't have a currency that if you're going to buy food for it, you can't be like, if I go buy it this day, I get 2 breads for that price. If I go tomorrow, I get 1 bread. Because that's so...
That doesn't work.
So I can't have a system that works.
Yeah.
That happens with fiat currencies.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the more people, well, first of all, that personally, I don't believe that the thing that you coined now won't be an issue, because the more people that use it, the more stable it will become. If we ever get to that point that you actually buy milk and bread with it, we'll have so many users that it will become really, really stable. But I do not believe that the place of Bitcoin is as a national currency. I think we'll have both. I think we'll have Norwegian coin, Norwegian crown coin, or whatever it will be called, and we'll have Bitcoin. There's a lot of things that currency do today that Bitcoin can't. Loans, for example, is one. You can do loans, but somebody has to own that value. And the way the world works today, Bitcoin, you can't just place in Bitcoin and accept everything to be okay. So I think it'll live beside each other, but I do believe that Bitcoin can take over a lot of job that, for example, the dollar has. Today we need the dollar to succeed, or else the world will go to shit. If the dollar crashes, everything goes under, and I mean everything. And that's really scary to think about, that the dollar is printed by a private company. Come on, that's crazy. That is actually crazy. The whole world depends on the dollar, and the dollar is owned by a private company. That's crazy. Things like that, I do believe Bitcoin will take over. So instead, if you want to know how much the Norwegian crown is worth, you don't go to dollars, you go to Bitcoin. That I do believe that Bitcoin has a place in that field.
Some shops now you see some shops start to accept Bitcoin. Is that more of a gimmick, would you say?
I think that'll continue. Like I said, I think both of them will live at the same time. I do think both of them will live at the same time. But you will have certain edge cases where Bitcoin can't solve your problem. I do also believe that if everybody uses Bitcoin in the way that, and we want on-chain scalability and we want on-chain transactions, we'll have massive amounts of issues. And the whole solution then has to become centralized. Because if it's that amount of transactions on the blockchain, the amount of data that needs to go into that is so massive that most likely a home computer can't run it. Because you'll have a gigabyte every minute of data. And you don't want to download that. I mean, come on. And so I do believe that things like segregated witness and stuff like that are solutions to this issue.
No.
But I don't see, personally, this is a personal opinion, I don't see Bitcoin as a national security for larger countries. Smaller countries, yes, maybe, yes. But larger companies that has a valid, valuable currency, I don't think so, no. In Norway, we're so well off in Norway. Like, I won't lose my citizenship. I'm so sure that I won't lose my citizenship. I'm so sure that I won't have hyperinflation on Norwegian crown. I'm really sure about this. So the Norwegian crown is really stable. The Norwegian government is really stable. We have it good in Norway. Zimbabwe, I think you need like 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollars to buy a bread or a milk or something. And Iceland as well. And that's sort of where this technology hopefully will take off.
How anonymous can a Bitcoin holder be?
Depends on how many times you move your Bitcoin. If you've never moved it at all, if you just received Bitcoin, never moved it,
Then it can be traced
then you're...
payment from the bank.
Yeah, but if you've just received Bitcoin and it's from, if it's from a bank, the bank will know. So the bank has KYC, it'll know who it sends money to and stuff like that. But say, I send you Bitcoin today. Nobody will know who owns that.
Okay.
Nobody. You're just as anonymous on the Bitcoin blockchain as you are in the forum. So in the forum you have a pseudonym, you'll call yourself Mr. Big Guy. That's your name on the forum.
You can actually be completely anonymous about your holdings.
Again, it depends on how many transactions you do and how you transact and how you actually secure your transactions. But for example,
It is possible.
it is possible if every transaction you do is from a unique wallet, it is possible. The minute you link those wallets, so say you have 10 wallets, all of those wallets have received 1 Bitcoin, each of them, and they're all bundled into the same thing. But you want to send me 10 Bitcoin, or you use 10 Bitcoin in the shops. Okay, one of those Bitcoins were illegal, came from something illegal. I don't know what, whatever it is. But then you bundle all those transactions together and you use it in Kiwi. You use 10 Bitcoin. Here, give me some bread and some butter. You use 10 Bitcoin. Then you've bundled everything. So you've actually proven that that 1 illegal coin also belongs to all these 9 legal coins. So what the government then can do is check that transaction, see that it comes from Kiwi, because most likely Kiwi will have an open address. They'll say, yeah, this is our address because we have to pay taxes on this address. So most likely the government will know which address Kiwi owns. And they'll go in and ask me, or ask whatever employee to check the cameras.
Yeah.
Who made that payment when? So you still need police to do their job. If you stay in the illegal market, most likely they'll never find you. But the minute you bring that illegal value into the legal market, things sort of change.
So it would be, if you were a criminal, to have 2 accounts or 2 holdings. Is that possible?
Yeah, but you can't link those holdings.
No, they have 2 keys.
Yeah. But you have, but you can never link those holdings. So your black money or your unwashed money will always be unwashed. So you can't buy a car with it, because that car will be registered in your name. You can't buy a house with it, because you're that house. So you have the same issue as with laundering cash. Except the difference is laundering cash is a lot easier because it doesn't have any paper trail. So banks can do it. JP Morgan can do it. If you look at how much money banks pay out in fines because of money laundering, you'll be amazed. You'll see that banks are criminal.
JP Morgan is a scam.
They're worst. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite altcoin and a favorite?
See, here comes the questions. Where do I buy? On a technical level, yes, I do.
Yeah.
On a technical level, yes, I do. On a technical level, to me, Dogecoin is a shitcoin. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything new. It's just funny. It's just a meme that was made into a coin. It's funny. It's funny to mine. It's funny to be in the community. It's funny to chat with people and all sorts of humor in Dogecoin. So it's sort of, but it's still a shitcoin. I'll never buy anything with a Dogecoin. I can't pay for Steam games with Dogecoin. It's still a shitcoin. So those kind of coins to me, personally, are shitcoins. The coins to me that are worth something, the second place for me is sort of shared between Ethereum and Dash. Dash does one thing differently than Bitcoin that I do believe Bitcoin needs to build in as well, and that's called coin mixing. So Dash is 100% anonymous. And it does that with something that's called coin mixing. And what happens is coin mixing means that if I want to send you 1 Bitcoin and you want to send him 1 Bitcoin, it's an automated process that bundles all the transactions together, so your Bitcoin goes to him and my Bitcoin goes to him. So nobody will know where the money comes from, but the bottom line will be correct. but where the transactions came from and who they're to are sort of random. So they do this coin mixing. That's when you're 100% anonymous, because then you sort of cut the link between different stuff.
You have sort of like a pet shit coin. My pet shit coin is the Putin coin because it's the way you're using.
Yeah, for example, or troll coin. I mean, there's a coin called troll coin, and there's a Facebook group, and I remember I was in this group very, very early when you had a Facebook tipping app, where you could put different coins into Facebook, and you could tip people. It was really funny. Facebook's closed it because it was value, and they needed KYC and all this sort of stuff. So they closed it eventually. But this was really fun because you could put coins into this Facebook app, and you could tip people via Facebook. So you could give people coins. So in this troll coin group, the better you troll, the more troll coins you got. So sort of loads of jokes out there. But yeah, troll coin is the one funny one as well. Anything else? Think hard, yeah?
So that the government should have to make a blockchain, but if multiple governments make different blockchains, would it eventually be possible to move the information and the keys to an international blockchain?
Good question. See, that would be a good idea. Building one blockchain for the whole world. So that's sort of the ultimatum. I don't think that'll happen though. Governments tend to keep to themselves and let's make Norway better, not the whole world better. So I don't think that'll happen. But after we get all these change from different companies, I think the next move, the next step is to integrate all these chains into one chain. So you have something called side chaining. So all the governments can have each and every government can have their own side chain, but they're all connected to sort of the world chain. If that answers it.
But how is it when the user of all the usability of the chains? How do you actually, when let's say the Walmart example, you're going to check that chain, and then you're going to check another chain for instance, porridge, or how are we going to use these different chains?
One
app for each chain?
For Walmart's example, it'll all be on the same chain. So the blockchain is sort of a universal source of truth. So on this type of blockchain, for Walmart at least, there's some special type of data you want to store. You want to store the type of product, maybe the name of product, the steps of where the product comes from, every linkage to how the product has been assembled, all the temperatures on the product, when it's been moved, again, what cow produced that product. But that will be the same for each and every product. So no, it doesn't matter if it's milk or porridge or cornflakes.
But if you go outside Walmart, go to another shop, they will have their own.
Hopefully Walmart will allow other companies to connect to the same blockchain, but most likely no. Most likely this will be only for Walmart and their whole...
But couldn't they then achieve the same with a database?
Yeah, they could achieve the same, but they couldn't be 100% sure that the data is correct.
But what does that gain the user? I mean, that's... Why couldn't they be 100% sure about that? If they own the database and they own all the blockchain nodes, this is kind of back to my initial question about that. I still have a hard time understanding exactly how, if they have control of the blockchain and they also have control of the database, assuming that they do.
If they build a blockchain, they won't have that control. If they build a decentralized database, they will have that control. So if they actually build a blockchain, you'll have the chaining, and doing any changes in the blockchain, you'll have to do changes on all the other files that follows.
That's no problem. They control the difficulty and everything for recalculating. So they just have to hash them again.
Yeah, but will then the farmer allow that change? See, this is a consensus rule. This is a consensus rule. So for this to work, hopefully they'll make a consensus rule out of it.
No farmers will run a Bitcoin mine. A mining
Not a mining rig, but if Walmart says that if you do business with us, you have to run this. This is our control point. This is where you store your data. Everything is automated. This is our system. So if they then make a consensus rule, everybody on the chain needs to agree with the change for it to happen. So hopefully they'll make consensus rules. If they don't have consensus rules, they've made a decentralized distributed database, which they control, which is not a blockchain in my opinion. Does that answer it roughly? Yeah?
Yeah, there's always a battle, all right? So in the blockchain, with the topic of blockchain, do you see a battle ongoing? I'm thinking about
definitely
big commercial interest on one hand, the government on the other hand.
Oh, there's internal fighting as well.
Yeah, basically, do you see the outline of a kind of a major battle of kind of being in control of this? Because nobody will ever let the blockchain just be the perfect harmony between everything. There will always be gravity that will need to tilt it in one or the other way. Do you see the outcome of any of that?
An outcome is hard to see, and there is a lot of pushing and pulling in the blockchain. There is a lot of discussion about who actually has power and where the power actually comes from, because obviously there has to be somebody on a blockchain with power. Obviously, the blockchain has power. Someone has to create that power, and that's a big discussion in Bitcoin. Do the miners have power? Someone say yes, someone say no. Do the users have power? Someone say yes, someone say no. Do the developers have power? Someone say yes, someone say no. So this is a struggle, as you mentioned. They tend to. We haven't defined everything yet, and we're sort of not agreeing on the different ways of defining things. So the outcome will be really hard to understand. But you have a really good point. People will pull and drag to get most of the power that they can out of it, and that's happening in Bitcoin now. So the users, the miners, the developers, they're all pulling to get most power out of the blockchain. That's why we have had a split in the blockchain from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash, and that's why we're also having a split now soon to SegWit 2x because of the power struggle. People disagree. What's so cool about Bitcoin and blockchain is that if you disagree, you guys work on GitHub. Do you know what a GitHub fork is? So not everybody knows it. So basically a GitHub fork is that you take the code as is now and you make a copy of it. And it's two different codes. They run the same, but it's two different codes. They're unique in its own way. You can work on the code in that position and this guy can work on that position. So from this point, it's exactly the same, but then you fork it and you do a split. You split the code. So this code goes this way and makes some changes in that way, and this code goes that way and makes some other different types of changes. That's what happens in blockchain as well. Basically, you do a fork in GitHub. That's why it's called a fork. And you share the same transactional history. So when a fork happens, a hard fork happens, you sort of take the database, all the transactions that have already happened, and you do a change to the consensus rules. What happens then is you've basically made a new coin. You've actually made a new Bitcoin. Because the old coin that you've forked from won't agree with your consensus rules, so it'll throw you out of the network, vice versa. So the new code won't agree with the old code consensus rules, so it'll throw the old code out of the network. And that way you've created a new coin, new paths. So that's what happens when we disagree in Bitcoin. We'll just make a new one, see who wins. So I think we will have loads of different Bitcoins coming up. And especially when it happens once, it tends to just come quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker.
But won't that kind of make it crumble in the long run if it forks and forks and forks? I know this is for me as in theory this all makes total sense, and if we all agree and are happy, good stuff happen, right?
Welcome to Bitcoin.
We're all human, humans. And
Yeah.
we use this, and we want power, we want money, we want other people not to have power and money. And fundamentally, like,
Yeah,
for me, I see that being a human as a fundamental thing that's going to come and cut the legs under
Yep.
some of these visions.
So the issue that you're explaining now is that when you have a hard fork and you have support on both chains, so you have miners on both chains, so both chains keep on living, you have an issue. So what coin is the real Bitcoin? Okay, and how can you sort of divide them? How can you know the one from the other? And if you're not a technical user and you haven't been in this game for a while and it suddenly splits into 15 different coins, what are you going to do? It's just a big old mess. And you're exactly right. I don't know. What are you going to do? What happened with Bitcoin Cash was that they called it Bitcoin Cash. So instead of having two Bitcoins, Bitcoin 1 and Bitcoin 2, they actually called it Bitcoin Cash so we could split it and divide it and see the difference on it. So yeah, I think to answer your question, we need more test cases, more use cases. We need more users to experience this kind of stuff before we know a definite answer to that.
You have to say last question because he's been standing up for a few hours, right?
No, I don't mind. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know when we should cut it. I think it's interesting. We should probably cut it. That's it.
Follow up?
Forgot my question.
Yeah.
This is a little bit about, you know, is it just by talking about bitcoins, you know, we see already it's forking and splitting. Now, the technology behind it, the blockchain, you want that to be kind of universally adopted, you know, to have trust and right trust for government jurisdiction, you know, transactions, legality. But there is so many competition, you know, everybody can start their own blockchain. But how do you unify into a blockchain? You can't even unify into the currency. You know, it's like almost impossible. You need a centralized government to get behind something, and then you have the centralized thing again. So how do you combat that situation? Where it's just going to fork and fork. If anybody disagrees, the fork, and you need a centralized, you know, authority behind it to be able to have trust in the system as a whole.
When you fork, and if you fork to do a change, and you fork to remove the other part, most likely one will win. If you fork to not compete against the other part, but you fork because the base code is good, you just want to change it and do something else, both of them will live. Bitcoin Cash is a good example of that. In my opinion, again, these are my opinions. Bitcoin Cash went from $700 down to $250. And then at the same time, Bitcoin went from $2,000 to $5,500. That's a real good indication of what Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin. What Bitcoin will survive. What Bitcoin will we have going forward? To me, at least, that's a good indication. So it's sort of market-based. It's the market that decides what will go on.
Think about, okay, the value of bitcoins and so on, but just the trust in, you have your legal documents, you know, and the trust in this database, and then suddenly there's a new data. It needs to be unified, you know, everybody needs to be able to verify.
So there is no trust in Bitcoin, in blockchain. Blockchain is a trustless environment. And that's because you don't need any trust. You have verification through hashes. So the hashes are unified.
Yes, yeah. I understand it, but okay, those two legal offices uses that blockchain, those neighboring to use another blockchain, and then on another level you have another blockchain. There's just been a multitude of blockchains. You have to agree on something.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely have to agree on one chain. Yeah, that now I understand. That I completely agree with. But it's the same thing. We had the same issue with the internet. Okay? So when the internet was new, everybody said, oh, fucking criminals can communicate with each other immediately, and terrorism, and this is crazy. We can't have the internet. This is just dangerous. Anybody can post whatever they want, and the newspapers will die, and the world will go under. That was sort of Internet 93, 94. So what happened as a response to that was AOL, for example, and that's just one of them. America Online. Intranet on top of Internet. How stupid is that? Okay, and I do believe that what you're talking about is private chains. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that will happen. We'll have a bunch of private chains. They're called private chains, where different companies utilizes their own blockchain. They're in the sense they're called private chains. They're private. And I do believe we'll have loads of them. Loads of them. I do believe that because any company can just fork each other and yeah, they can just do whatever they want with it. But I do also believe that eventually people will understand, like they did with the internet, because on the AOL network you could only send an email to people on the AOL network. So other people on the internet, you couldn't communicate with them. So you suddenly realize that if you use the internet, you can connect with anybody. If you use AOL, you can connect in that internal network. And the value with connecting with everybody compared to connecting with the internal network, it's just worth so much that I do believe and hope that people will catch that and one blockchain will survive. And you'll have side chains on that blockchain. So you'll have one blockchain as the foundation and you'll have side chains as the houses on top of the foundation. And different companies will use different houses, but the foundation is the same.
And then a small follow-up.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody there is a de facto blockchain that is, everybody has using it. Can we solve the computational challenges with that? Because if you see the size, it would be an order of magnitude bigger than what we have today.
Yeah.
And the computational power is already a challenge for transactions.
Yep.
Is that even foreseeable with today's power? We need almost like quantum computers to solve that. Is that possible? Do you see that as an easy transaction, or will it be a massive challenge?
Have you heard about Lightning Network?
Lightning Network?
Yes. They're talking about implementing it in Bitcoin, but that's one solution to what you're talking about now, where you basically you have the Bitcoin blockchain in the center, and you make different hubs on top of that. That is sort of the Lightning Network. And if you and me say I buy coffee in a shop every day, and then me and the coffee shop guy, we can agree on a hub, Lightning Network hub. When I pay, it goes into the Lightning Network hub. We can create that hub by ourselves. And I'm not 100% stable on Lightning Network. This is really new technology, so I'm not 100% stable on it, but the way I understand it is that this hub you can create yourself. All the transactions goes into this hub in a sort of side chaining way, so all the blockchain verification and stuff is there. And what happens is once a month, once a day, once a week, you can decide that for yourself. Every transaction in that hub generates one transaction that goes out on the blockchain.
So you're kind of confident that this is solvable?
I think that will be solvable, yes. This is technology, everything is solvable. Eventually.
Within the framework of what we expect.
Yeah, and I do also think that we need third-party vendors like all original databases, MySQL, Cassandra, MongoDB, stuff like that on top of it. We'll definitely need that. Yep.
Wouldn't that just be an off-chain transaction and
An off-chain
settlement?
It's called an off-chain transaction, yes. If they're good or not, we can discuss that. But yeah, that's called an off-chain transaction.
Should we stop now maybe? And
No, if there's more questions, just go ahead. No? I'll definitely have another beer while you think about it.
Thank you a lot.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.